topic is the fragility of global supply chains. And my guest is John Scannapieco. He is a shareholder and chair of the global business team at Baker Donelson. Hello, John.
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you again. Thanks very much for joining me again. So this topic of fragility of supply chains has certainly arisen quite a bit in the public lately with the blockage of the Suez Canal by the Ever Given. What did that particular event reveal about vulnerabilities in global supply chains?
Well, it revealed a bottleneck of that type, which I don't think you would have really expected would have caused the ripple effects that it
Yeah.
did within the supply chain. But it really shows, I think, the importance now of once again going back through your supply chains and identifying, are all of my goods coming through one point, or is it really dependent upon one supplier, or to really understand then where little events like this where we would have thought, I'm sure that's going to cause somebody some headaches, but not to the extent that that it did. And I think
Mhm.
that's what it's causing people to really look now through their supply chains once again to get a better understanding of. I try to identify bottlenecks. It may not be, a big vessel stuck in the Suez Canal, but other bottlenecks that I think you're seeing now pop up in supply chains, and trying to then develop plans to work around them so
It's
they don't
every
cause these disruptions.
everywhere you go, we're facing these problems. I mean, obviously, shippers bringing in stuff from Asia to the west coast of the United States and through the Panama Canal have to deal with port congestion now. And so they think, well, why don't we go the other way? The Suez is good.
Right.
And no, it is not. So, in other words, you do believe that logistics providers and manufacturers are standing up and taking notice of this last one. And do you think that's going to precipitate a real look at their supply chains?
I think this is just one of many events that have happened over the last 12 months that have really caused, folks to stand up and really start thinking more about the supply chains, whether it was the initial supply and demand shocks of COVID, now the what I'll call the post-COVID, or at least this recovery phase we seem to be in all of the shocks there, climate change and the impacts that has caused, floods and hurricanes and typhoons. And who would have thought a deep freeze in Texas, right, would have caused all the
Oh, sure.
disruption? And now you have, the hackers and the colonial, pipeline and what that's caused. So I think all of these different events, they've caused such disruption, that I was talking to some of our clients over the last week, and I was talking to a freight forwarder yesterday, and just listening to them talk about some of the issues they're all facing and how now they're trying to deal with them. Yes, I mean, to answer, it's a long way of answering your question instead of just saying yes, but yes, I really think, this event and all of these others, have really forced people, whether they want to or not, it's forced them to really take a look at their supply chains and examine them for and to identify where maybe they will find these potential bottlenecks or these issues. And, if they can, um, try to work around them. But, some companies are just so small, that they don't really have the resources. And so I think those companies, those small and medium companies, are the ones that are going to be facing the real challenges over the next, say, 12 months.
Making structural changes in supply chains is easier said than done. It's not something that happens overnight. Are there indeed short-term solutions that are out there that companies can take advantage of in the meantime?
Well, I would have said maybe 6 months ago, you may want to think about. So let's say, for example, I'm a seasonal business, and so I order my products. I'm making this up, 4 months,
Mhm.
5 months in advance. I would have suggested maybe you do that a couple more months, maybe buy even a little bit more. But of course, as we've seen now, that has caused its own issues.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because I think more and more people were doing that, and so now that's caused. I'll say, I don't want to use the word hoarding because I don't think it's appropriate here, but they are stocking up on inventories. For decades it seemed like, or at least a decade and a half, we were so focused on lean and efficient supply chains, and we were just squeezing them down
Yeah.
to where, I mean, there was not any flexibility in there at all. any tolerance at all. And of course, now that's really caused these problems. And so I was talking to, like I said, a freight forwarder yesterday, and in some businesses where, the margins are a little bit bigger, they've been able to at least absorb some of these extra costs that they're experiencing, ordering goods and then warehousing them, for use over a period of time. But he said, he was telling me his smaller clients are in some cases either going out of business or they're just stopping a line of business or pausing a line of business because they just can't continue. And so I'm not really sure what the short-term solutions are, because if you think about it, you're talking about issues, shortages in commodities, right? Whether it's lumber or rubber or different types of chemicals. So you can't even say, well, I'll buy more. Well, if you can buy it, maybe in larger quantities, then you have the issue with transportation, right? And there are bottlenecks with the transportation. Freight on a container from Shanghai to Memphis 18 months ago was $6,000. The cost today is $18,000. I mean, just think about
Wow.
that. Tripled.
Is
And
that going around the Suez, or is that coming across the
that,
Pacific, or
that
just,
would just come straight across the Pacific.
and it's going to,
And
it ends in Memphis. So it's
yes,
probably
ends in Memphis. So
offloading
it's
at Southern California and then going intermodal into
yes,
all the way
yes,
to Tennessee.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so, so you have that issue. So, some of these areas where you would think, well, I could do this. Well, no, then I have this issue. Or I could do that.
Hmm.
Well, no, I got that issue. And then if you can even find a truck, right, to take your product, because again, there's short
Yeah.
supply there. And so
Hmm.
I really think it's just going to be it's going to require companies to really dig deep and look far and wide to maybe find supply, and to find maybe alternative means of transportation if they can. But I
Hmm.
know one forwarder, I think this year alone, they have chartered, what did he tell me? 6 or 7 of the big Antonov. What is that? The Antonov. The really I can't think of the number. I'm bad with planes.
Giant
Yes,
planes.
giant
Hmm.
planes, just to deal with their customers and some of their customer needs, especially in the auto sector and chemicals, because they just couldn't figure out any other way. So I mean, I think it's going
Hmm.
to be very, very challenging over the next 12 months. Now, I've started to see some commodity prices start to come down. I think in some areas you're going to see a ramp up of production, but that takes time. But
Sure.
again, I think though over time that will ease. But I think it's going to be very, very difficult and very challenging for companies because, I mean, in the two big areas to me you would normally look, I think they both right now have significant challenges because this isn't a regional thing. This isn't an industry sector thing. This is an everything, everywhere,
Hmm.
literally thing, issue,
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
that is making it very, very challenging. So I can't go to a different region and find maybe the commodity I'm looking for, or another way of transporting, as you say. We come across or we come through the Suez, and I think it's very difficult to even find the container space. I was talking to another forwarder, and he was telling me, as they do, they buy their containers, a year out. And in years past, they would get most of what they asked for in terms of their allocation. He said this year we're lucky to get 60 to 80% of our allocation from different
Yeah.
forwarders, because that's how, and they're even shipping things in refrigerated containers that don't require refrigeration because that's the only containers they can find.
Do they
So I
pay
mean,
extra for
it's
that equipment,
yes,
even though they don't turn on the
yes,
reefer units?
yes, yeah. I mean, it's all. I mean,
Mm.
and that's what's causing these, these issues. But so again, I wish I had a solution. I really, I thought you would ask me that question, and so I actually did. I reached out to some
Hmm.
companies I know, and I reached out to some logistics and forwarders that I know to say, what do you guys think? And everyone was just, we're doing the best we can, and we were calling in favors. I mean, it really is getting down to that,
Hmm.
calling in favors and all the rest. But I think the people or the companies that are going to really suffer here are those that just don't have the personnel and the other, financial resources to maybe spend the time or even spend the extra money where maybe they can find the commodity that they need or the goods or the widget that they need or even getting it transported. I
Yeah,
think
and
those companies are really going to have the real tough time.
and for consumer goods, we're not that far away from the Christmas rush, which usually starts around August on the over the ocean. And so we have this congestion going on right now. So if they want to bring in stuff early, that necessarily isn't necessarily an option. It seems like they're pretty much at the mercy of the ocean carriers, these giant ships. I wonder if the ships are just got too big to be
Well,
of service
yeah.
to shippers.
I don't know. I don't know if that's it too. I think with with COVID itself, as you recall, a lot of ships were taken out of service because
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't that demand. I think they've been put back in service, but just because there was such a stoppage literally worldwide, that this increased demand, as we talked about, everywhere for everything, has just overwhelmed that system. Now I understand more ships are being built, but that's a 2 or 3 year process to build ships. And so
Hope maybe some smaller ones would be
well, or
nice,
something.
but
I
I don't
mean,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
happening. Yeah.
I don't think so either, and I just think it's just that overwhelming demand for products. But on the Christmas side, as I said, one of the forwarders that I've spoken with, he was telling me that a lot of his customers that deal in Christmas goods, so seasonal goods, he said, as you pointed out, that would be an August, September thing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, no, we're on it now because
Ah.
we have to get it here now because
Mm-hmm.
we just don't know what we'll see in August or September. And so they're willing to pay what they have to pay, not only to ship it, but also then to store it, to warehouse it. Because if they don't have those goods, they're a seasonal business. If they don't have it, then they're out of business. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something that's a challenge that they're all, trying to address. But as you said, I mean, even if I want to get it shipped, I may not be able to find the containers or the just the mode of transit space to
Mm-hmm.
get it, over here. So
Oh, John, I'm a little disappointed. I thought you were going to solve everything for me
I
in this
I want you to
conversation.
know,
Too
I was
bad.
thinking, somebody smarter than me has probably thought through this and but I mean,
No,
it's
they
just one of
haven't. I
those,
assure
I
you.
mean, it is, it's one of those things. Like I said, I've been thinking about it too, because we have clients that are, they don't necessarily call me for that solution.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they have figured that out. Now they need to paper it in some way with a contract or something like that. But
Yeah.
again, we'll have conversations. And so if I can offer that solution, I'd like to. So I've been trying to think through it myself to see how that would maybe impact some of the legal issues that may come up.
Mm-hmm.
And we just keep getting stuck on where to find it, or even how, if we find it, how to transport it,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that they can make it.
Everybody's just scrambling. Well, John, let's talk again down the line about
Sure.
maybe some longer term solutions like reshoring and nearshoring and the like. But for now, John Scannapieco of Baker Donelson, you've done a great job of framing the problem, at least, and that's the first step toward a solution, right?
That's right. That's
We
right. No,
hope
I
so.
yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
Thank you so much for being with you. Always good to talk to you. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.